The U.S. military went in, again, with some civilian agencies, if you will, probably the FBI. The CIA did some prep work on the ground, we know. But the U.S. military went in and was able to neutralize any opposition force and also go into the presidential compound, pluck out Nicolas Maduro and his wife without suffering a single American casualty. As Lucas Tomlinson reported earlier, there was one helicopter that was, or one aircraft, I should say. We don't know that it was a helicopter that was slightly damaged, but it was continued to be flyable afterwards. Senior strategic analyst General Jack Keane joins us now. General, give us your assessment of the operation that U.S. forces pulled off here last night.
Well, you got a sense of how complicated and comprehensive it is with the chairman's, brief description and summary of it. But it certainly begins with intelligence itself. The mission was attempting to capture Maduro and his wife. I mean, obviously we had another option which reduces the risk considerably, just to destroy the compound and people in it. Obviously that would be Maduro and his wife. But they truly wanted to capture him. They wanted to bring him to justice. They wanted to have a trial. They already had an indictment. And that increases the risk, obviously, for the troops that are participating. But it's really the intelligence that permitted us to select that option. Because Maduro knew for weeks that this kind of an operation was a potential, and he was doing everything he can in terms of where he was staying, not the same place over multiple times, changing his habits. But even in changing habits, there's always a pattern, John. And our intel guys picked up on that. And we have other sources than just visual. All source intelligence is being used here to gather information on what is happening, not just surveillance, but listening, penetrating cyber, penetrating phones, the rest of it. A huge capability here that was able to track Maduro and with some assurances know where he would be and whether we could get in there and get out safely. The scale of the operation is all about getting the ground force in safely and extracting it out safely with helicopters. So what took place here? Multiple command and control sites were hit. And why is that? To destroy orders being given to reaction forces. Radar sites were hit. Air defense systems were hit to obviously fire at our helicopters or our fighter jets. Multiple Army bases were hit for obvious reasons. No reaction force able to respond. Air bases, multiple across the entire width and depth of the country were hit for the same reasons. No response against our fighters or helicopters. And then selected naval bases. Over time, the scale of the operation will become known, even if the Pentagon doesn't release it, because social media, neighborhoods, everybody knows what's happening, taking videos of it, and will see the breadth and depth of it. But the chairman certainly outlined the significance of it. And what makes this operation possible, in addition to the intelligence and our ability to deal with these complicated, comprehensive operations, is who the people are that are doing it. The intelligence of the people, the imagination of the people, and then the boldness, daring, and courage that they have in executing these operations and the skills that go along with all of that. It is truly a brilliant operation. And when we see these things, we have a tendency to take them for granted. And it's so true what the president said. Nobody else can do this on the scale that we can do it.
Yeah.
And it really is quite remarkable.
It is reminiscent.
And,
go ahead. Go ahead, General.
No, you go ahead.
No, it's reminiscent to me of the raid that captured Osama bin Laden, but much broader in scope, in that, those defense mechanisms that you talked about were all targeted and disabled.
Yeah, well, with bin Laden, it was a matter of just getting in there without being detected, and then once detected, get out of there as quickly as possible. We took no action against Pakistani forces, and we weren't going to intend to do that unless they fired upon us. So that operation, while certainly bold and daring, didn't have the complications that this operation had as well. But look at the implications here are really great for the Venezuelan people. 27 years, if you package together Chavez and Maduro. Think about that. 27 years they have had their grip on this country, and they systematically destroyed it. And now the opportunity for the Venezuelan people is just nothing short of remarkable. I'm assuming we'll transition to elections. The Venezuelan Constitution actually has a provision for an unforeseen transition of power where the vice president is the interim leader, and that's who the Trump administration has selected. And I'm assuming we'll eventually transition to elections and have a duly elected through a democratic system, assume power in the country. And we've seen what those candidates can be and who was the candidate the last time in terms of Machado. But that's the pathway ahead. And what a remarkable day that will be for the Venezuelan people after multiple fraudulent elections. And then the region, John. I mean, the implication for the region, we have opened the door to a paradigm change in the region. Not just against narco trafficking, not just against the imposition of fentanyl, but think of these other regimes who have relationships with cartels and the pressure that they're going to feel as a result of this. I think over time we're going to see that government changes taking place as a result of elections to moving away from these authoritarian regimes, these leftist socialist regimes, to more what they had in the past in Latin and South America in terms of democratic form of government. I think the Trump administrations and the boldness of the president, his patience and perseverance here have really opened the door. It's much bigger than Venezuela. It is about the region itself and our concern about the region over close to 30 years in the direction it has been taking. And then let's think about it strategically. All our adversaries are watching. Russia and China, another setback for him here because they had vested interests here. Just like in Iran, when we did the decisive blow, that was a blow also to Russia and China and other adversaries. Allies are watching it and seeing the world leader, President Trump, step up and use strength on a limited basis to make a powerful change for the benefit of the Venezuelan people and the region writ large. And they have to have confidence in the president's strength and leadership in doing that and dealing with the issues that they have in their particular region, whether it's the Indo-Pacific region, the Middle East, or certainly in Europe or even in Africa, where China and Russia have a significant presence. Huge strategic implications here going forward, John.
The leaders of Brazil and Colombia, not surprisingly Cuba, have all suggested this was a terrible thing. But sometimes those leaders might say something in public and then pick up the phone and call the White House, talk to the president personally and say, hey, thanks for doing that. Should we necessarily believe everything we're hearing out of the region in terms of complaints?
No, absolutely not. I mean, look, this has been very selective what our presidents have done in the region, and it's only when it's so compelling that action has to take place and they look around and no one else is going to do it. H.W. Bush, Noriega, and Panama, he came to that conclusion. Reagan came to a conclusion earlier than that with Grenada in 1983. It felt action had to be taken. President Clinton did the same thing when a military dictator deposed a democratically elected president in Haiti and reinstalled the democratically elected president. These are not things that we do routinely here. We don't put pressure on the region routinely. But when we see things like this happening, they're so destabilizing. Millions and millions of people here are affected by this. I mean, there's 28 million people in Venezuela. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8 million left because of Chavez and Maduro. This is such a plus when you just focus on the people and what it means for them in their everyday life.
They have a much brighter
future. It's really quite
future.
significant.
They sure do.
Yeah, absolutely.
General Jack Keane, our Fox News senior military analyst. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.